Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Jenkins, and I serve as President-elect on the Board of Trustees of this Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. Welcome members, friends, and visitors this morning, whether you are in the sanctuary or joining us virtually. We are a welcoming congregation, and whether you're in the room or online, you are valued and you are loved. Hey, everybody at home. And now for a few important announcements. You can find these and more on the sheet entitled Connect at the back of your bulletin. Today, we celebrate our annual Flower Communion, the ingathering of flowers during our service to symbolize our connection and unity with one another. If you do not have a flower, there are flowers in the back for you so you can fully participate in today's service. Please head to the back to grab one when the ceremony begins. Today, following our morning service, we will hold our annual congregational meeting here in the sanctuary. Hear year-end reports from our leaders and cast your votes for bylaw amendments and officers. If you are a member and you have not voted already, and you have not already checked in to vote before the service, then at the end of today's service, we ask that you step out into the foyer and check in. You'll receive a blue card which will tell us that you are eligible to vote. Following the annual meeting, please head down to Wild Hall for a potluck lunch. Let's break bread together and celebrate the year that has passed and embrace the year to come. As you head to Wild Hall, however, we ask that you do not try to use the elevator. Sometimes all you can do is laugh, folks. During the electrical storm on Friday evening, lightning damaged the elevator's circuit board. The repair process is underway, but it couldn't be completed before today. If you would like a ride down to Wild Hall for the potluck, we have a fleet of drivers ready to take you around the church to the ground floor Wild Hall entrance, and we can get you back too if you're worried. Please ask for a ride at the annual meeting check-in table. The Social Justice Council would like to ask members, friends, and visitors, in other words, all of you, to fill out and turn in the interest surveys that you received as you came in. Your answers will shape the council's efforts to serve you and your community. You can leave the surveys at the back of the sanctuary or in Wild Hall. After you fill out your social justice survey, take part in the Voting Justice Team's postcard writing session during the potluck. Take this opportunity to write your local, state, and federal leaders and share your thoughts on important topics. They'll even have suggested messages if you need them. This is vital work and an important part of our social justice ministry. Thank you all for listening, and above all, thank each and every one of you for making this place a place of warmth and welcome. We are glad you are here.
Good morning. Wonderful to have you here with us at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. And it's an exciting day for us. We're going to be celebrating our Flower Communion. And it's an exciting day and a historical day. My name is Clemson Tarragano, and I have the privilege of serving as your worship associate this morning. Our Unitarian Universalist Flower Communion service, which we're about to celebrate, actually began in 1923 by Dr. Norbert Čapek. And he was the founder of the modern Unitarian movement in Czechoslovakia. On the last Sunday before the summer recess of the Unitarian Church in Prague, all of the children and adults participated in this colorful ritual, which gives concrete expression to the humanity-affirming principles and visions of our liberal faith. During World War II, Dr. Čapek remained in Prague, was arrested by the Nazi authorities, and died in Dachau concentration camp in 1941. This gentleman suffered, but his message of human hope and decency and vision for justice lives on, and through this Flower Communion, which is widely celebrated today. It's a noble and meaning-filled ritual that we have the privilege to share and recreate. We're going to be sharing our Flower Communion today along with our Rippling Bowl. And our Rippling Bowl offers us the opportunity to create unity by placing our flowers into the vases and on the altarpiece, and share our joys and sorrows by placing a shell or a rock into the bowl, demonstrating our unity in joy, our unity in sorrow, and with flowers, our unity in vision. So please, at this time, come forward and place your flower into into a vase or on the altarpiece, where we can create the true garden, reflecting our community's bounty of justice, love, and peace for ourselves and others.
Viva
I feel and look so much better now. This is amazing. And like the elevator, I think the lightning fried my circuits as well. So we're going to have our chalice lighting and then Desperata by Bonnie and Ted. Please join me in our chalice lighting, reading number 580, The Task of Religious Community by Mark Morrison Reed. Thus says Mark, the central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Wow. There are organists around the world playing in great churches that are saying to themselves, I wish I could play like that. Celebrating the Flower Communion is an excellent opportunity for our church to express our commitment to the sixth UU principle. We covenant to affirm and promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. The flowers represent each person in our community, and the water in the vases might represent the covenant we all believe and thrive in. In our church, we like to refresh the water often and through the recital of our covenant. And you can find the covenant in your order of service. We are a people of faith and hope. Together, we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. And now, though still waters run deep, many of us are more like a raging torrent of belief, ones who seek to share our beliefs and hear the beliefs of others. At this time, all of our streams of consciousness are going to join as we greet our fellow Unitarians. Now, please keep in mind the way others wish to be engaged, and if they are seated or they seek distance, a kind wave of hello may be all that's needed. Now, as I recently learned, for those different from us in hearing, a simple wave, kind of like a salute, I'm kind of familiar with this, may be all that's needed. So, at this time, let's converge our streams, greet each other, and when you hear the music play, please take your seats. Let us join our streams today. So a really good friend of mine, the Reverend Dr. Karen Wilson Starks from Colorado Springs, Colorado, writes, "A vision is an inspirational and aspirational picture of a desired future state." In that wisdom, allow me to quote the words of Heather Christensen, a prominent Unitarian Universalist author. "Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace, justice, love, and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large organizations, numerous mid-sized congregations, and many, many small congregations. But no matter its size, every congregation depends on its members. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, help make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy." Thus says Heather. So today, we are going to fill the world with peace and justice, love and joy by sharing our plate with school supplies to support school supplies for elementary and middle school students through Passos and Carver Middle School. And want to remind everybody, we will be packing the school supplies this July, so watch for that opportunity. And we'd ask all of our members to please take a moment and contribute to the ongoing creation of that inspirational and aspirational vision of peace and justice, love and joy.
Please join me with the words in italics. We begin by expressing love for ourselves. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace. May you know the joy of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all others. May you know love. We then express love for those for whom we care. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace. May you know the joy of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all others. May you know love. We express love for those who we find difficult in small ways and in large. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace. May you know the joy of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all others. May you know love. And finally, we express love for all beings. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace. May you know the joy of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all others. May you know love.
When I heard that the church had been struck by lightning, well, it seems like I don't have to tell the joke. Lots of things that could be said about UU churches and lightning. Wrath of an angry God. But then, this happened on Friday night. And then, prior to this service that's just busting at the seams in all the pieces, and the annual meeting, and the potluck, and everything else everybody else has to do, graduation ceremonies and travel and just all kinds of stuff going on in individuals' lives, I watch these messages on email and then on text, moving back and forth. Leaders in our church, some of whom are ready to say, "See y'all later," responding, trying to figure out what to do, what's happened, what's the cause, what's the process, how do we do this, and information that's needed from many different people pulling together. And how do we deal with this, since we know this can't be fixed just immediately? Do we continue on? And folks saying, yes, we want to continue with the annual meeting, with the potluck. We don't want to change that. We want to still do it in Wild Hall to celebrate. Don't let this throw that off. This great willingness and upsurge of communication when nobody has any time for it, happening to move us to today. And I thought, lots of jokes that could be made about lightning and UU churches. And in the Buddhist tradition, when enlightenment comes, it comes like a bolt of lightning, like a lightning strike. we have the opportunity to move from judgment to cooperation and to draw from each other wisdom, compassion, community, so much joy in the chaos of our lives. Share silence with me. Just a couple of Sundays ago, several of us went on a backpacking trip right here in the sanctuary. We circumambulated the great mountain of people who are gathered here to travel together. And then last weekend, when I was away, my son and I went on a backpacking trip in North Georgia. It's something we try to do every year, to take a trip together over the Memorial Day holiday. It was just wonderful. He's 13. He has a year of cross-country and track practice under his belt. He was ready to go. I am not 13. I do not have a year of conditioning under my belt. I've had to do other things with my belt. Thank you, Julie. And so he was ready to go, and I had something to prove. And we tried to have some big days. It was wonderful. Absolutely brutal and wonderful. Anyway, on one of the last days, we were really trying to push it. It was dusk. The sun was setting. We decided we would try to go one more mountain. Tray Mountain in North Georgia. It's a 4,400-foot mountain in elevation. And we're hiking through these rhododendron groves, climbing into hardwood forest, scrambling over rocks, watching the sunset go down behind the mountains in the west, trying to beat the dying of the light to get to where we'll camp that night. And absolutely pouring sweat. We hiked and we hiked. It was wonderful and arduous both at the same time. Every sound in the dark forest sounded amplified, and we wondered what enormous animal was waiting for us around the bend. All those things. And finally, we crested this, one of the highest mountains in Georgia, and looked out over the landscape. We could see towns and cities in the far distance, and a breeze coming through those dense groves over the rock outcroppings on top of the mountain. It was so beautiful. And then we picked our way down along the ridge to try to find a place to camp. Pitched our tent in the dark, threw our bear bag for all those creatures that sounded so big when we were hiking. And we're about to call it a night. And for just a moment, I turned off my light And I said, Ben, turn off your flashlight. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, no, just turn off your flashlight for just a second. He turned up his light too. And all around us, on the ridgeline of that high mountain, in those dark groves, insects with bioluminescence floated all around us. Imagine fireflies, but steadier than fireflies, moving in these slow gyrations all around us. What is magic? What is this world of real things and real knowledge, of real science, and of mystery and beauty, things unanticipated and beyond our imagination, in which we suddenly find ourselves immersed? What is this world that we live in? So I want to tell you a story about magic. It's a story of a fairy, even a fairy princess. It's a totally ordinary story full of magic. From right here. A few months ago, a group of students came to some leaders in our congregation, and they said, we are trying to find a place to do a project. It's a project that we did for several years with another church. We've been asked to stop now. The project is just this, to set up a box on a stand, sort of like a birdhouse, a little free food pantry, and to set it out on a street or in a neighborhood somewhere where people who are hungry can come and get some food. We did this for a few years at another church, and it worked for a while, but then there were some folks that had fights over the food, and there were some folks who left trash and left it not looking so nice. And after a lot of debate and discussion, the place where this is housed, that had housed it for several years and been a great partner, they said, we think that it's time to just stop doing this now. But we really feel like we should keep doing this. We're trying to find a place. And we've asked several other places. They've all said no. Would your church consider doing this? To which we responded, well, we'll have to have some committee meetings about that. Some folks saw value in the idea, and others had some questions. So we began to ask, how could this work? How could this work? And one person stepped forward and said, I'll take the lead on this. This fits within some of our social justice work and some of the work in the neighborhood here. I'll lead the way in asking these questions. And so she began just organizing meetings and raising the question, should we do this? Should we house on our property a little box on a stand? The students would come and fill with food and clean around every day. Here are the things that we've heard can go wrong with it. Here are the things that we've heard can go right. And the first conversation was very rich, with about twice as many opinions as there were people in the room. And the outcome of that conversation was to say, we should go and talk to this other group. So that person, that fairy princess, she went to another group and asked, what do you think? Is this something we should do? And the answer came back, no, we should not do that. That seems like it could really have some problems with it. So we've got one group saying yes in about 1,000 different ways, or maybe. Another group saying no. What do you do with that? Well, we took it back to another group and said, well, what do y'all think about this? The response was, this sounds really good, but we're talking about this amongst ourselves. We're not the only people who are here. In fact, we're the people who are least here. We have neighbors who live all around us. Before we go any further with this, we should check in with the neighbors in our neighborhood and just see what they think, because they're the ones who are here most of the time. So we have all these different views and opinions within our own congregation, and I thought, well, let's go and ask our neighbors. And so this person, just such an ordinary, magical person, went to our neighborhood association and said, our church has been approached about doing this project where we would set up this box with food for people who are hungry, come by. And we have lots of different views on it. We've done some research, and the different views are warranted. People have different experiences, and we need to heed all of this. But we want to ask, what do you think? You're the people who live in this neighborhood. You're the people who would deal with whoever would come and gather food from this box. What do you think we should do? Anything that you say, we will take to heart. We really care about our partnership with this neighborhood. And those people gathered in that neighborhood meeting. They had a conversation. We talked about hunger in the neighborhood and kids that don't eat 3 meals a day, and folks that don't have stable housing moving through the neighborhood. And they said, let's take a vote as a neighborhood association. Let's say what we think about this idea, whatever the church decides to do with it. And so that ordinary magical being, fairy princess, sat there with this idea that she had taken the lead on, subject to the vote of an entirely other group of people. And they said unanimously, this sounds like the kind of thing churches do. And we know that there are hungry people in this neighborhood. If you choose to do this, it's your choice, but if you choose to do this, you would have our support. So that came back to our congregation. And it ran a whole nother round of committee meetings. So many different views, so many different thoughts, many different, very important perspectives, all of which need to be heeded. And one day, after a 70-foot-long inflatable obstacle course had been deflated on our back lawn, and hot chocolate and coffee had been put away, and the most delicious cauliflower chili that I've ever eaten. Whoever made that, I want to know who you are because I want to talk to you about it. And pots of other chilies had been put away after a big social event for our church on the back lawn on a pretty cold day in February, when the rest of us had piled in our cars and driven away. This magical, ordinary being, on her way to her car, thought, I've talked with this committee, and our board, and the neighborhood association, all these people. But none of us have talked to the people who live right next to the church. Somebody needs to talk to the people who live right here. So instead of getting in her car, she walked up to the door of one of the neighbors on the street that runs right beside the church, and she knocked. And when they opened the door, she introduced herself. She said, I'm working with the church on this idea. and we're not sure what to do, we want to just ask your opinion because you live here. What do you think about the idea that we might put up a box where people can come and get food? From one door to the next, down the street, and then down the other side of the street, knocking and asking our neighbors, what do you think? And hearing responses like, I've got enough food today, but there have been times in my life that I did not. And people have to eat. Responses like, I'm not scared of anybody that comes on this street. Responses like, it seems like this is the kind of thing that a church should do. Very affirming, candid responses to a very vulnerable question. Should we do this? You can imagine if any of our neighbors had said, absolutely not on my street, would have stopped the project cold. That's not what was heard. And so this careful, methodical, ordinary, magical being brought back to all of these different views in our congregation this response. And more committee meetings happened until we arrived at an idea that was brought to our board. That rather than say, no, we won't do this, because we were hearing such a response from the neighborhood that this could be good. And rather than saying, yes, absolutely, we'll do this, end of story, and ignoring the caution, an idea emerged that we should just do this as an experiment. Do it for a set number of months and monitor it closely. And see, do the students do what they say they're going to do? And refill it and keep it clean. And if they don't, have conversation with them about it. And does it really work for our neighbors, or does what they're saying change after it's been there for a while? And how does it work for us? Is it causing division among us, or is it something that's binding us together that we can work on together? Rather than say absolutely no or absolutely yes, what if we found a way to bring together all of our views and try? Try. The first big test will be whether the school installs the thing. It's been measured and fitted, and it's coming. We'll see. We'll see how it works. And I think there are people who are hungry. I think there can be a great deal of value in this. But the magic in the story, whatever comes of boxes and food and students and committees, is the care that was taken to walk slowly together, to listen to each other, to disagree with each other, to risk our ideas on the views of people that we didn't even know, but who would be impacted by this work. To build together a vision of what the next step should be, to do an experiment. And that slow, methodical work of caring for each other and how we make decisions brought forth a magic, not of total agreement, not of shared view, but the discovery of a way forward together that leads us into the future. We have all been through a lot. It may not be food that we have missed, but the last 2 years have taken from us all. And in the midst of it, we have worked so hard to try to matter to each other and help each other and try to do things that matter in the world. And we have. Just a few minutes in our annual meeting, we're going to hear truncated reports that are far too short to represent everything that has happened because we've done so much. And in the course of all of that, of our grief, of our disconnection, of our busyness, of our striving, we have developed strong ideas, strong visions, strong perspectives. And I got to tell you, as the person who hears a lot of them, they are not the same. Part of what has happened in our country and in our community and in our families and in this congregation over the last 2 years is a hardening of views, an entrenchment of positions, and a kind of defensiveness against listening to each other and being changed by each other. You see it all around. And even in a place of such goodwill as this, it's here too. How do we find a way forward together? How do we not only do good work, that's almost the extra, but how do we be good with each other? How do we be beloved community for each other? How do we be the people in the place that we long for after all that we've lived through? Speaking of long committee meetings, for the last 4 years, the Long Range Planning Committee has been talking about having a visioning process. The way that was envisioned 4 years ago is not the way that is envisioned today. A pandemic has happened during half of that time, which terrifies me about whatever the next 2 years may hold. Right? Knock on wood. For 4 years, we've talked about finding a way to align with each other, to build a shared vision together that can allow us to work better together. We do so much good stuff in so many directions. What if we intentionally developed a sense of shared purpose? And over the last 2 years, the Committee on Ministry and the Long Range Planning Committee and then the board had more conversations than I can remember about what the shape of that process might be, looking over resources from the UUA and other sources, corporate sources and other. How do you do a visioning process that doesn't wear everybody down and that doesn't build such an intricate, minute plan that it tries to micromanage everybody and people hate it and stick it on a shelf and don't pay attention to it? How do you help people with so much energy and creativity align with purpose without depleting the magic of their creativity? And we are ready to begin. This summer, in a small way, and then into the fall in a much bigger way, we have a team that is going to organize meetings for us. And we want everybody to take part. No matter who you are and what your perspective, no matter how long you've been here or not, we want for you to take part, to share your perspective on what this congregation can be and what we should attend to, where we should place our time and energy. And if your view is radically different from the view of the guy who talks with a microphone for way too long every Sunday, that's good. We need that. We need the contradiction. We need the contradiction. Because the goal is not for me or anyone else to stand up here and tell us all what it's going to be. That is not democracy. That is not us. And the goal is not to politely walk around each other, never broaching difficult subjects, so that we remain diffuse and scattered and less effective than we could be. Look at our world. We need effectiveness, and we can bring that. The goal is to bring ourselves into creative conflict, not fighting, but creative disagreement. What could be more Unitarian and Universalist than that? To bring all of our differences to bear and to take the time to talk with everybody that we can think of, in here and in the neighborhood and wherever, to build a vision that can move us forward. Not something that we will get done in 1 or 2 months. Something that we will develop over multiple years, and then, if we decide to, on a 5-year cycle, something that we would integrate into the life, the culture of our church, so that at every step along the way, as we come and go from this place, whatever it is that's happening in our lives, every one of us can be drawn into the vision, the life, the magic of this church. This is coming now. We have waited a long time. We've done a huge amount of preparation. And I want to ask you to take part. We are going to hear a small portion of all we have done together this year and over the last many years at our annual meeting in a few moments. None of what we hear will be complete because it's impossible to say it all. Imagine if we do the work of alignment and shared purpose. Imagine what can come. That magical being, such an ordinary, extraordinary person. She risked herself and the project to talk to more people than I would guess she could possibly have ever wanted to talk to about one stupid little box full of food. But the care that she took, that is the concrete, real, empirical magic that we all hold within us. To care enough not just about our ideas and our own visions, but about who we can be together. To slow down and talk and build something of real purpose and power. So that whatever we actually do, the steps along the way that get us there will be just as full of magic, creativity, and goodness as whatever the end result is.
Please join us and stand as you are willing and able, and join in singing hymn number 318, A Vision of Community, We Would Be One. And that's hymn number 318.
To pledge ourselves anew.
And in closing, as we create unity and community together, we're going to ask everyone to join in reading number 580, The Task of Religious Community. So if you turn to reading number 580 in the back of this book and share reading with all the task of religious community. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds which bind us each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed.
We have brought flowers forward to create this bouquet together, beauty that no one of us could make on our own. As the service concludes, we want to invite you to come forward and take a flower with you as you go today. Whoever you are, whether you brought a flower or not, that is not what matters to us, but that you take a memory of this beauty with you. Anything about the annual meeting that we need to announce? So for members who are eligible to participate in the annual meeting as voting members, if you've not already voted or checked in, please exit and check in at the table, and then we'll begin the meeting. And everyone is invited to attend the meeting and to hear the business of the church. Then there will be a potluck, and everyone is begged to come and eat the food so that we take flowers home with us, but not a crumb. Not my idea. And I'm very sorry to say, not yours either, but the one that we create together.